This is Bob Andelman, and you're listening to and hopefully watching the Mr. Media interview with novelist Robert Barclay, whose new book is If Wishes Were Horses. Rob, how much time passed from the point that your wife, I guess, said, challenged you to go ahead and write that book you've always wanted to write, to the
hmm
time you were finished? How long did it actually take to write the book?
Well, I wasn't under contract, so I had no deadline.
hmm
So I worked on it as I felt like working on it. I would say it took about a year.
And how much rewriting, once you did have a contract, was there? And what surprised you when you got into the process with an editor?
Well, first of all, my agent recommended a few changes, which I incorporated. And then my editor at HarperCollins, Morrow, recommended a few more changes. We ended up adding about 5 chapters to the book that weren't there.
Really?
Yes.
At what point in the book were the additions?
Um, One of the concerns was that Wyatt and Gabby got together too easily, and they needed to have a couple of spats along the way, which I invented and put into the book. The other one was that after the incident with the horse, Sadie,
hmm
um, they felt that Trevor would have been far more angry at Ram than what I initially indicated in the book. So they wanted a couple more chapters showing Trevor's anger and his pulling away from Ram for a time. Those were the two largest things, but we didn't have to. They didn't have to tear the book apart. They weren't about moving chapters around or doing rewrites or fundamentally changing things on that kind of a basis. The book was fairly solid, I think, when they got it.
It sounds like you got very good advice because the 2 points that you talk about there, um, the when they first get together after the spats, one of the best scenes in the book I thought was actually when he suddenly shows up at her apartment. Uh,
I had fun writing that one.
yeah. What was it that her T-shirt says? Um,
A day without sex is like a day without sunshine.
yeah,
And
yeah.
she pulls it on by accident and doesn't know, and then there's Wyatt standing at the door. And I tried to write that one from a female point of view. I thought she's not expecting him to come, so how can we embarrass her just a little bit and make it a little bit comic? That was a fun chapter to write.
People who may read that and think, "Oh, come on, nobody puts on a T-shirt like that by accident. You know what you're doing in the morning." I have my own a very quick story. I'll tell you this. I, uh, I work as a journalist, and 4 or 5 years ago, I went to New York to interview the new owner of the Tampa Bay Rays, and I had packed. It was winter, and normally I wouldn't pack T-shirts. I live in Florida. I wouldn't pack T-shirts to wear under a dress shirt, but it's cold up there, and I wanted to be warm. So I had just reached into the drawer and I grabbed some T-shirts and put them in. And I know we're off topic here, but you'll see the connection. So I get to New York, and I get dressed, and I pull on a T-shirt. First one I pull out. Well, it's not a plain white T-shirt like you would normally wear under a dress shirt. It's a white T-shirt that has a Rays logo on it. Pure coincidence that this is the day I'm going to meet the owner of the team. So after I met with him, I was supposed to go and talk to a guy who was going to hire me to do a book, my own book, with him, a bank president. And so I'm with the owner of the Rays, and I'm telling him the story. I said, I know this sounds silly, but I'm actually wearing a Rays shirt underneath here. And he sees it and he laughs. Now he knows I'm going next to meet with the bank president, and he doesn't want me to wear this T-shirt in there because he thinks it'll be unprofessional if the guy can see it. So he actually literally offered to trade me T-shirts, and I didn't do that. But I thought it was a great story. But it says to me, I read that part where she put on a shirt, didn't think about what it was, and was embarrassed by it. I get that completely. I completely
Well,
understand that happening.
you have to be careful about what you put in a book and what you don't regarding believability. I've been lucky enough to be given a second contract by HarperCollins Morrow, and I just finished that book 10 days ago.
Oh, congratulations.
And in it, not to digress, but in it, the male lead character um, owns an English setter who can actually go to the refrigerator and bring him back a beer. And it's true. If you go on YouTube and look it up, there's a way to you tie a towel to the refrigerator handle, and you can actually, provided you put a beer cozy on the bottle, you can actually train your dog to pull the door open, bring you a beer, and shut the door. And we're going to see how the editor reacts.
Hey, have you seen the video? There's a video I think of a lab or something that dances up on its hind legs for like a three
Yes.
minute. So,
Yeah, he was on, I think it was on Letterman's Stupid Pet Tricks too. I think
it's
that.
just it's incredible. But I think that that dog and the guy who trained him. I think I went to college with them at University of Miami. Sounds like one of the guys I was a freshman with many
Gives
years
a
ago.
whole new meaning to the phrase man's best friend.
Oh, absolutely. So listen, I'm thinking that if I were single again, and hopefully that'll never happen, but just in case, you got to keep your options open there. But I was thinking maybe I should try my hand at, at a modern romance novel because I figured that these romance conferences and romance conventions of authors and fans have got to be packed with lovelorn, very sincere ladies. So what do you think? Have you had enough of that that you would think that yeah, that'd be a good place to be single and a
I,
guy?
I think it'd be a very good place to be a single guy, especially if you're a successful novelist. I am, however, very happily married. Um, yeah, as a matter of fact, I'm doing an appearance next week in Naples called Bagels and Books, which is
Sure.
a collection of book clubs from the Naples area, and that will be largely a female audience. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you must just really hate making those appearances, huh?
Not too shabby,
No.
especially when they're paying your way and giving you an honorarium. So, yeah, no, I'm more than happy to go wherever they send me. I'm at their service.
Now, does to go back a second, does the second book have a working title?
The second book is titled, tentative title is More Than Words Can Say. And I'm especially happy with this book.
Hmm. Now, are we ever going to see Wyatt and Gabby in another book?
Nothing would please me more than to write a sequel to
Oh, okay.
Wishes Were Horses. Um, I've given it a little bit of thought. I think it would be fun to put it about 5 years later. Trevor is now maybe 19, 20 years old, and make it a little more Trevor's story. Perhaps Gabby has an unscrupulous brother or cousin or something that comes in and sort of tries to drive a wedge into the ranch. I don't know. This was a book that I wanted to make a little like the old show Dallas, but not too much like Dallas.
Hmm.
Um, uh, but nothing would please me more than to write a sequel to Wishes. I would really enjoy that. Plus, it would be kind of easy because so much of the work is already done.
Mm.
The characters are formed, the stage is set.
Right,
I
right.
would really need would be a plot, and I could take off from there.
Well, and I know I got to the end of the story, and I wanted to know what was going to happen to them next. I mean, you do talk a little bit about what happens a couple years later. I won't go into that, but so we know a little bit of something. But yeah, it would be nice to follow them a little more. And
Yeah, yeah. But right now, I mean, what a lot of people don't realize is that normally working authors very often are walking around with three books inside their heads.
hmm
I have to carry Wishes Were Horses inside my head for interviews like this. Then we will soon be in the process of editing More Than Words Can Say. And I'm also trying to think up new things for another, the next book,
Mm.
but hopefully that I'll have the chance to sit down and write. So you have to be able to compartmentalize.
Has the writing now become your life, a business interest aside, or?
It's my full-time occupation for as long as they'll have me. Yeah.
Hmm, nice work if you can get it.
Nice work if you can get it. I enjoy it very much. I
Hmm.
enjoy it very much. But, you know, um, it's like it's like anything else in the entertainment industry. And Mick Jagger said it best, I think, in an interview that he gave. He said, "Your next work always has to be better than your last one, and that's hard.
Hmm.
Otherwise, you're yesterday's newspaper." And it's like being an actor in a way. You have a contract and you fulfill it, but then you're always hoping to get another one.
Hmm.
So,
Well,
it's
I read Keith Richards' biography just
did
recently,
you?
and yeah, it was fascinating. Great book. And yeah, I mean, he kind of talks about how directly or indirectly they have their whole careers to do their first album, and then if it's a hit, you basically got to turn around and be a hit again and again and again.
That's exactly right.
You never have your whole lifetime to do that first one. After that, it becomes that's your job. That's what you're expected to do.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. But I enjoy it. I love the work.
So we talked about that your wife challenged you to write the book at one point. We know that your dad figured out that he was Ram. Have your friends made the adjustment from you being a business guy to being a novelist? Do they treat you any differently? Do they talk to you about different things than they used to?
Um, no, they're begging me for pages that come out of the printer on stuff that hasn't hit the bookshelves yet.
Got it.
They feel privileged in that regard. One of the questions I was asked in one of my previous interviews regarding this book was, uh, when did you realize you were famous?
Mm.
And that one just made me shake my head because I don't consider myself to be famous. If you think about it, few authors really are household words. Dan Brown, Stephen King, there aren't many. And to prove the point, if you walk down through the shelves of a bookstore and you walk down between two rows and you look from left to right at the different authors' names, you're not going to find that many with whom you're familiar.
Right.
Although they may do very well in their chosen field, but it's very difficult to break in. I think it's even more difficult to become, a major influence, but only time will tell.
I tell that to people that I write books with all the time that if you want some sense of how competitive it is, just go to the bookstore and look around. I mean,
Oh,
there's just a ton of books. But
well, just getting an agent is incredibly difficult. I was lucky to get one of the top agents in the country because she fell in love with the story.
mm,
And we had breakfast in New York not long ago, and I said to her, I don't think she'll mind me telling this, because I did not know the answer. I said, Marley, out of every thousand or so manuscripts that come to your firm, um, newbies, how many would you choose to represent? And she said one.
hmm
So, and I didn't know those odds going in, or I might never have attempted it. It just goes to show what you can do when you don't know any better, I guess.
well, Rob, yeah. Now, next time somebody asks you when did you know you were famous, here's what you'll answer. It was the day that I was interviewed on Mr. Media. Okay?
I'll do that.
All right.
Be happy to do that.
All right. Now, folks, listen, you can order If Wishes Were Horses by first-time novelist Robert Barclay from great bookstores everywhere, or you can get it online right now at a great price at mrmedia.com, mrmedia.com. Rob, can you be found online? Are you doing Twitter, Facebook? Do you have a website? Where can your
The
fans find you?
website right now, I can be found best on the HarperCollins website. There are a number of pages there regarding my bio, question and answer sessions, that sort of thing. That's the best place to look for me right now.
Okay. And, well, listen, Robert Barclay, I really enjoyed the book. I am not
Thank
ashamed to
you.
say it. It's a real good story. And thank you so much for joining us on Mr. Media today.
I appreciate it. And I appreciate your interest in my book.
My pleasure. My pleasure. And folks, for more original interviews with your favorite American novelists, surf over to our main website, mrmedia.com, mrmedia.com. Subscribe to Mr. Media on iTunes, and you'll never miss a show. Just search Mr. Media Interviews from within iTunes and subscribe for free. You can also listen, especially when you're in Boca Raton, with a piece of string and a tin can in many locations. If you've got an idea for a guest, a comment on today's show, or would like to advertise on Mr. Media, shoot me an email directly at bob@mrmedia.com, and you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. Thanks so much for joining us today. Always appreciate you giving up a little piece of your day and spending it with Mr. Media. Thanks for listening. See you next time, everybody. Bye, Rob.
Bye. Thanks.
My pleasure.